Fox News alert millions of American families.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm George Thomas. We begin with the latest.
Here at St. John's Hospital, there are certainly a lot of efforts here at the LAPD and all across the
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm George Thomas. We begin with the latest in the coronavirus pandemic. Number of cases here in the U.S.
Welcome to Rise to Liberty podcast, the best podcast you've never heard of, fighting for free speech and spreading the message of liberty. Find us at risetoliberty.com for everything related to the show, including our merch, social media, episode player, and much more. My guest today is a Marine war veteran, an activist, a warrior for freedom. He has stood up and spoke out against tyranny, sometimes resulting in his temporary loss of freedom. He has started a nonprofit organization called Homefront Battle Buddies, an organization focusing on creating a community of veterans who help each other heal through the use of alternative healing therapies in the hopes that they can transition back to civilian life. He has run for public office. He is an author and host of his own show, Adam versus the Man. But he is not only a man who talks the talk, but he is a man who walks the walk. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome Adam Kokesh.
Thank
you,
Jake.
Doing?
Excellent. Yourself?
Not too bad. You know, after we got all these tech issues worked out and everything. So
this better be the best interview you've ever had.
Well, you're definitely the most crazy guest I've ever had before, and I mean that in the best way possible.
No. You know what? I'm happy to start on that note, Jake. I am the sanest guest you will ever have on this show. Maybe not ever, but that you have ever had. I think in the words of Donald Trump, I am a very stable genius. But no, I will make the case for my unique sanity in a world gone mad. I will take that conversational prompt, if you will, to illuminate a subject that I rarely get to articulate, but we do live in a world gone mad. You know, especially now. We, as libertarians, we've been saying this in different ways for years, you know, since at least since the Libertarian Party, 1971, you know, the rise of the modern bureaucratic centralized state that the United States federal government certainly exemplifies, but there are a handful of other good examples around the world, you know, but this is modern phenomenon of human organization. It has been a unique kind of madness that in an age of relative enlightenment, of material profusion of wealth, of knowledge, of a connectedness, of communications technology, that we still put up with this, but especially in the last 2 years under COVID, which I describe as a dark cloud hanging over everything. But hysteria is certainly appropriate as a way of describing what we are living through as a phenomenon. Yes, there's a pandemic. I'm not a virus denier, you know, like, yeah, there's a virus. I think I got it, actually. I think I got it a few weeks ago. Finally, actually, my approach to COVID variants is the same as Pokemon. Got to catch them all. You know, get that natural herd immunity up there so we don't kill grandma. But no, I regardless of your take on if it's lab leaked or how much of a conspiracy it is, and the thing that boggles my mind is, you know, how much is it some kind of planned depopulation versus just they don't care about killing people for power and profit, you know, like these are the same people who made the Iraq war that I was in, you know, like it's the same people. Okay, it's BlackRock and Vanguard and the military industrial complex and big pharma driving this whole phenomena, and the rich get richer at the expense of everybody else. So it sounds shocking. It sounds crazy. It sounds even to me conspiracy minded to go, yeah, it's either they're letting people die to get rich, or they're deliberately letting or manipulating or making large chunks of the population die through the shutdowns, the lockdowns, the policies, the vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. But regardless of your interpretation, wherever you are on the spectrum of reasonable understandings of COVID policy, clearly alongside the phenomena of the virus and alongside the phenomena of the lockdowns and the policy and the actual response, there is a phenomena of hysteria. We are living through a period of mass hysteria where the threat is overblown and that state of fear is being used to manipulate people. Like that's pretty safe. Trying to be inclusive here. I don't know how your audience feels about this, but I think that's a perspective that still hits the heart of what is fucked up in a way that doesn't. I'm not depending on my unique analysis of some particular element of this to say you have to agree with me to get on board with this, to understand what's happening. And a lot of libertarians have been kind of doomsdayers as preppers. And I'm not really one of those people. I want to live by my principles, by my values. I'm coming to you. I'm sitting in front of my wood stove here in Gardenia, my 10-acre homestead in the mountains of Arizona, in my cabin. And we're not fully functionally independent. We are completely off grid, and we could be if we had to. And I don't think things are going to get like a scale worse, like a lot of the preppers say that it's going to be societal collapse. But there's a lot of negative momentum right now for the world, economically, socially, politically. I don't know if we're going to come out of it or when, or if this is all just going to fade into the background and then humanity's going to progress. But I think there has to be, a period of about a year for the negative momentum to unwind, at least what we have right now. I don't think it's good. If you believe the lab leak virus theory, it's a lot more plausible now than ever before that they could just say, fuck it, let's release a worse virus next time. Right?
Yeah.
And now that they've got the template for medical tyranny and for raising hysteria, if I were them and that's what I was doing, that's what I would do, is release a virus like Corona. Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot. That's what we used to call it. COVID. No. Let's be scientific. That if they were to release that they would release that and let it be something relatively mild, and then release something serious. And the threat of a serious virus is as real now as ever before. Possibly even more so if people's immune systems are weakened by lockdowns, shutdowns, all the other negative health consequences, lack of access to medical care, plus or minus, who knows, whatever the effect of the vaccines may be, although it looks to have pretty deleterious effects on your immune system at this point, although statistics are certainly debatable, and 86.53709% of all statistics are total made up bullshit designed to manipulate you. So you got to watch out for that. But I would think that the approach that my worldview suggests, the libertarian analysis, the initiative based on love of life itself and love for humanity, I think the way that I live and my perspective on the world and the way that I relate to authority is the only sane way to live.
Yeah, well said. That's I don't think you have to go too far to honestly see things and people in such a hysterical light. It's really in our faces these days, and it's really hard to ignore. Why things are happening so rapidly, personally, that's just what makes me believe that it's a social socially engineered, you know.
Definitely.
There seems to be some people pushing this.
Oh yeah. Well, let me articulate a model of that, which might, I think, clarify as a way of thinking about it. Is that a lot of the conspiracy-minded people look for simple answers. That it's one dude, like it's all Fauci, and it's or it's all CFR or the CIA, or it's the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, and it's like it's actually kind of all of those things.
Yep.
And that's what I think provides a better explanation of what we're seeing with COVID. Because if it was really a singular conspiracy, if it was, because if there is a seat of the conspiracy, it might be like the boards of BlackRock and Vanguard Holdings, the two major corporate conglomerates that own something like half the defense industry and more than half of the pharmaceutical industry. But even then, and I don't know, like half mainstream media or whatever. It really, if you're not familiar with BlackRock and Vanguard Holdings companies, look those up. It really is just one measure of corporate concentration in the United States, and really in the world, because these are internationally functioning corporations. And while they have so much control, this has become so much more than this. It is not a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy of conspiracies working together, taking advantage of the opportunity. They don't even have to look at each other. They just see what each other is doing and go, I have an opportunity to fuck people too, because they're accepting it from them over there. And I can make this point in a way that I think will remove any doubt, in the sense that even if there is a central or quasi-central, like if BlackRock and Vanguard are somehow actually talking to Fauci and talking to the heads of other governments, but they don't need to.
Yeah,
it's sort of like the rise of modern bureaucratic governments replacing monarchies was a global phenomenon. You can say it was led by the American Revolution. Pretty cool, right? Although we kind of fucked it up when we let the counter-revolution happen and got central banks and standing armies that the founders were against. And we didn't really overthrow the moneyed families, the true dynasties of the world, the powers that be, by overthrowing the crown in the American Revolution. It was almost more symbolic. But it led to a transformation of governments around the world. They said, we don't want these figureheads anymore. We want to at least pretend democracy. All right. We want to vote. And if we vote, we'll work harder and we'll let you tax us more. Was basically how the state racket evolved. And it's evolving now to such a point where the underlying dynamics of it mean that when something like COVID comes along, everybody goes, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Yeah. Okay. We're doing this. Okay. I guess we're all doing this. And there's certain people that drive it more than others, but it goes all the way from the very tippy top of Biden. If you think he's anything more than a puppet, I think presidents are better described as power brokers than puppets. They get to decide what strings are attached to them, at least. But Biden, Fauci, who was it, Charles Klaus, Schwab, whatever, all the rich money families, all the people in the World Economic Forum, the people who sit on the boards of BlackRock and Vanguard, sure, but it goes all the way down to the state governments that are taking advantage of this, to the local governments that are taking advantage of this, to the individual cops and bureaucrats that are taking advantage of this, down even further to the individual fucking Karens who get some ego gratification, go, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm going to be a COVIDist, and I'm going to bully people around me because it makes me feel better about myself, makes me feel more important, gives me some false sense of security to feel superior to the people around me. And it's such a dangerous conspiracy of conspiracies because it doesn't need a central conspiracy. It is something that is invoking a vulnerability in the human psyche in all of our current institutions. And I hope we come out of this with positive momentum, that we take, humanity takes this as the teachable moment to go, yeah, let's address that, that deep-seated fear and bullshit and the psychopathy that makes a phenomenon like this possible. Let's all do mushrooms in the woods with Adam at his place.
Count me in anytime. So I watched a speech of yours recently, and I thought you made an interesting point. It was the speech you had made here in Salt Lake City for the 50th anniversary, and great speech. Loved it.
Thanks.
And
One of my best. Yeah. You gotta give it a title. How and why to be a fucking pirate. Arr.
So, which will be linked in the description down below for anyone wanting to check it out. I definitely recommend it. The point that you had made was kind of how easily everyone fell into this whole COVID lockdown thing, and how so many people did not come out of it. To me, that seems kind of like a black pill. So my question is what white pills you these days?
Well, if you mean like blue and red pill, I don't know black pill, white pill. I'm not familiar with the way those terms are used. I know red pill, blue pill.
Doomsday, white pills, like you got hope.
Oh, okay. Black pill is like, here's some truth revealed that convinces you the world is fucked, as opposed to the white pill that's the optimism pill.
Yeah.
All right. Well, because I want to address it first from a blue pill, red pill, and see if I can bring it through psychology analysis to black pill, white pill, because the phenomena of COVID for a lot of Americans, at least, and a lot of people around the world, has been, I'm scared. Give me the blue pill. Put me back in the matrix. Their T-shirts now even making fun of this. With the meme of the gray-faced guy with like needles and a mask. Govern me harder, daddy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, a lot of people were scared into just gobbling down more blue pills, right? Put me deeper into the matrix. And what that makes me think of is Mark Twain's quote, it's much easier to fool someone than convince them they have been fooled. And a fear once entrenched is quite difficult to dislodge. And in terms of COVID, my answer might just have to be, I don't know. And we can't know because we don't know what's going to happen. Except I do believe firmly that the COVIDists and the people driving the phenomena will manipulate the narrative in such a way that people will be able to hold on to it. Well, maybe we didn't know everything that we know now, but we did what we could when we were scared. And you have to be like, no, you fucking morons. You fell for the racket. Admit that you were lied to.
Mm-hmm.
But do I care? Do I really care? I care that it doesn't happen again more than that. Like, do I care that like, for example, like I have, partly driven by this phenomenon of COVID, ended up separating from a lot of my biological family who went hardcore COVID-idiot. And just, I don't want to have anything to do with them right now. And it's kind of a weird thing to see them go that way. But do I need them to apologize? No, needing an apology is childish. It is. Now, apologies, it's a very simplified analysis. Let me sidebar that for a second.
Yeah.
That, I need them to apologize to make me feel better. That means you are not emotionally mature. You are not in control of your emotions. To say, I would like them to apologize, to acknowledge their responsibility and commit to never making it happen again so that we can move forward functionally in a working or whatever relationship, that's different. That's fine. There is a legitimate, but I need an apology. I need someone to say they're sorry. So I need them to feel bad so that I can feel good. Fuck that. That's childish shit. You know, do I need them to, on the same token, do I need them to admit that they were wrong? Not really. Kind of want, I mean, I want them to, because it would reassure me that they might not fall for it again. And that's a big part of what I've gone through with the military, to admit that enlisting in the military, I fell for that. I fell for the mythology of American militarism. I was scammed into enlisting in the Marine Corps and volunteering to be a party to war crimes in Fallujah in Iraq in 2004. I can, and that's, to me, that's just sort of easy at this point. A lot of people are just so emotionally insecure that they will never admit that they were wrong, right? They are so emotionally mature that they just move on to the next thing, and they don't have the self-confidence. They have some deep-seated shame or insecurity. And so, to answer the question psychologically, like, and seriously, bring it back to mushrooms, you know, and mental health, and cannabis, but alternative therapies like what we're doing with Homefront Battle Buddies, it's the question becomes not how do we convince people that they were lied to, but how do we build them up in such a way that they are impervious to that deceit in the future. And a lot of people right now, just I got a sidebar on one other point, because like I'm a big advocate of giving blood. My birthday's tomorrow, and people say, "What do you want for your birthday?" I say, "Give blood, donate blood. Don't give me anything, donate blood, because there's a good chance I might need it someday." Okay, so donate blood. There's a good chance you might need it. Let's get as much unvaccinated blood into the blood banks as possible. There's a blood supply shortage in America. There's never been a superfluous supply, at least to my knowledge. There have always been doctors since we developed this technology of blood transfusions. Like, holy fuck, how have we not just, yes, everybody give blood? How did we not like figure that out? There are times when doctors have to like decide who gets a certain pint of blood in a limited supply or not. I want it to be so superfluous a blood supply that anytime anybody might need something, just throw pints at them. You know, when I'm in the emergency room, if I'm bleeding out, I don't want a doctor going, "Well, I think he'd be okay with 3 pints. Yeah, let's save the 4th and see how he does." No, fuck that. Give me the 4th pint. Everybody donate. Anyway, what was I talking about? So, with building people up, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not committed to mushrooms, but a positive awareness of mental health. And a lot of people decry the modern rise of pathology of psychoactive pharmaceutical prescriptions and diagnoses as a terrible thing. And there are a lot of things we're fucking up with it, don't get me wrong, and certainly generally overprescribing and the wrong drugs in general. But the fact that we are able to be so aware of this doesn't mean that we're getting crazier. In some ways, in the last few years, we are. Let's acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But overall, human mental health is getting better with time. That we are not all hunters and gatherers 24/7. Means now we can sit with a dude and talk on a couch and it's not a big deal. You know, it's not like, oh my, you know, we have the luxury to diagnose things that in the past were just he's a violent asshole. Well, now he has, you know, bipolar personality disorder and can address that. No shit. Well, next, like what I want to get past in the next level for humanity, for looking at mental health, you know, is the way that I think about like physical fitness. You know, I take my physical fitness very seriously. And I think that if someone came to me and said, "Hey man, I can bench press 225, you know, I want to get to the point where I can bench press 315. Can you help me get there?" I wouldn't look at them and be like, "Oh, well, let's diagnose your weakness disorder." You know, like, "Oh, let's deal with your pussy problem and see why you're such a wimpy, wimpy guy, and let's fix that and let's heal your weakness." No, you go, "Fucking, that's awesome. You can bench 225. Let's build you up." You know, okay, so you've got issues with fear. Okay, so you've got issues with anxiety. So you've got issues with insecurity. Let's strengthen your ego. Your healthy ego, you know, let's strengthen your confidence. Let's strengthen your self-awareness. Let's strengthen your self-discipline. Let's strengthen your physical body so that it can support your brain with a continuous proper supply of nutrients, right? So that gets me to your actual question, black pill or white pill. I think when someone has that and has that attitude towards their health and their outlook because they love life, the sort of white pill, black pill analysis almost doesn't matter. You know, you're going to live well. You're going to be happy. You're going to live by principle. You're going to live deliberately. You're going to be healthy, at least. And it's gets you to a sort of Zen detachment. You can then objectively, from that state of looking at the world without any of your personal pathologies or biases in the way, look at it, well, in a way that to me is rationally optimistic, I would say. Let me put it to you like this, because I don't discount the possibility. I mean, I'm an optimist, but yeah, an asteroid could hit the Earth and we all could die at any second. You know, like, yeah, that's just welcome to life. You know, like that's welcome to human awareness with this beautiful thing that we all get to enjoy. Yeah, it could end at any time. It could at any point for any of us turn into agonizing pain for decades.
Without warning.
Without warning, at any moment, your life could become painful agony until you decide to end it or can't end it. That's, whoa, yeah. Yeah, that's a reality. But if you look at the course of human history, it's one of beautiful progress and accelerating progress. And we are very fortunate to be alive during what I call the curve to the asymptote of the human experience, where so many things that drive our day-to-day lives are about to just increase exponentially off the charts. Productivity, access to energy, information, entertainment. I mean, the profusion of material wealth with 3D printing, just all of that stuff on the horizon that's really been robbed from us over the last, century or two by modern bureaucratic governments. It can't be suppressed inevitably. Just you look at quality of life, standard of living in the United States, and there are lots of places in the world that have yet to catch up. I don't mean to discount that, but in general, massive portions of the population of the world have been lifted into this modern life where we all expect to have, like in America, nobody really goes hungry, for example. Like even just 50 years ago, people like starvation wasn't an issue, but in the course of American history, it has been. But we kind of just take it for granted now. Nobody really starves in America. If you're a human being in America, you get food. Like you starve because you got lost in the wilderness, not because you couldn't afford food. Like we get to take care of everybody that way. Did you see anybody like actually wearing rags? No. Homeless people in America still dress like reasonably well. I mean, functional clothing. No one's freezing to death on the streets.
Poor
right?
people still have TVs these days.
Yeah.
Cell phones.
And just the cell phones. Cell phones is a game changer, right? Thank you. And the way a lot of libertarian economists, I think, have described this is, in 100 years ago, rich man had a Model T, poor man walked. Today, rich man has a Porsche, poor man has a Honda Civic. That's an example from like the early 2000s when I was learning libertarian economics. I'm sure there are better, more popular ones at this point. Fuck, I'm old, man. Like I said, I'm about to turn 40. I'm having a quarter life crisis because I'm going to live to be at least 160 years old. That's my plan.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit, honestly.
But I've got that time enough behind me for perspective that I think that for a long time I've been, I guess you would say, a white-pilled rational optimist. Does that explain? Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that covers exactly what I was getting at. Personally, I'm white-pilled. The reason why, especially through all of this mass hysteria, these authoritarian overreaches, I see more and more people standing up and actually not taking it. Just look what's going on in Canada. The fact that news media has to not cover it, they have to try and downplay it as if it's nothing. A fringe minority, Justin Trudeau said. People trying to discredit a march for freedom because there was one asshole with a swastika flag.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting that the moves to discredit freedom. So I honestly believe that people who want their freedom are making massive head ground above people who want to stifle us.
Yeah. No, it's really tempting to be pessimistic right now, and I've kind of gone through this myself and really only figured it out this clearly what I'm about to say when I went to jail in December for mushrooms. And it's that the absurd concentrations of wealth that we're seeing, it's paper money. It's not, I mean, yes, they use it to manipulate real wealth. They use it to manipulate human behavior. They use it to manipulate labor and who has claims to what physical properties, but it's imaginary. You know, all fiat currency has value. I don't want to say it's not real, but it's an imaginary accounting system of numbers based on the government's threat to collect taxes in those bills and force people to use that fiat currency. Obviously, you're familiar with this phenomenon. That and COVID policy. And you know, everything else that we're seeing that you mentioned in the propaganda, this isn't things getting worse overall, at least not in the long term. It's them getting desperate. They can't start work. What did these people, what did they used to do? They used to convince millions of gullible young men to dress up in funny costumes and meet in the middle of a field where none of them live and kill each other because they're wearing different colors. That's what they used to do. Now they're doing COVID. It's not as bad, but it's desperation. And that means we have hope coming out of this. I'm very hopeful.
So my next question would be, why does liberty matter? Why does it matter to you?
Liberty is life. Liberty is the expression of the gift of human consciousness, free will. It means nothing without practical respect in the real world. I don't want to say it means nothing, but it means less. You know, it is less fruitful. And I want to point out, because oftentimes, and myself even, you know, as a libertarian, excuse me, we forget that as long as your mind is capable of being aware of itself, you can control the response to the response that you have as an animal to stimuli. That gap between stimulus and response, as it is sometimes described, as long as you have that, you get to choose the composition of your mind. You get to choose your attitude, your outlook, your perspective on the world. And that is the freedom that matters.
So how do you feel that specifically the Libertarian Party has been able to effectively spread liberty? Do you see that working? I mean, there's a lot of issues internally.
Yeah.
Because there's also been a rise of I really hate labels, but I guess they are calling themselves the post-libertarians, people that don't see libertarianism actually working, and so they abandon it and go for one of the two big parties.
So you say, you know, how is the Libertarian Party effective at spreading the message? I think various individuals within it, as candidates and as activists or as party organizers, have been at times very effective. As a whole, I think we are very right to point out the inefficiencies, the limitations, the vulnerabilities that a National Libertarian Party represents. And it's tempting to criticize it, to demean it as a waste of resources. But I think what the Libertarian Party undeniably achieves is holding that space for, and I've heard this described. I wish I could credit the gentleman who told me this, longtime Libertarian Party activist I met at one of the state conventions last year, said, well, no, we are holding the vessel for when the moment comes. And the moment is probably not going to come from the Libertarian Party. And the mechanism of change may or may not be the Libertarian Party. I am open to different possibilities. It's not that, I do believe that a voluntary society is inevitable, assuming, we don't blow each other all up with nukes, or, the asteroid doesn't come first. It is the natural course of human progress to get less violent over time. That's been academically proven. Steven Pinker, Harvard, TED Talk, The Surprising Decline in Violence, if you don't believe me. And it's just a matter of how and when. So it could be, as we see, that the state becomes less vicious. I mean, let's celebrate how much the government has had to back off the drug war. As much as arrests for cannabis are still horrifically high, they have had to give up that part of the racket to maintain their credibility. The police state has become significantly less brutal, over the last few years. So with Democrats and Republicans in power, the state is being pulled more in a libertarian direction anyway. There are less wars, less large-scale wars, at least. While you look at the scale from like World War I to World War II to Vietnam to the Gulf War to the global war on terror, as horrific and costly as the global war on terror is, it's part of a decline in what militarism can get away with. So it might be that we have a moment. It might be that coming out of COVID, some savior comes along, or somebody writes a book, or there's one meme or one hashtag. It could be any mechanism. It could be the Facebook group I'm launching tomorrow called Oath Breakers that calls out the irrevocable, condemnable, unethical nature of the U.S. Constitution from top to bottom. It says, you should swear no allegiance to a document that doesn't respect, the principles of individual liberty, of voluntarism. So I have a copy of the Constitution here. I'm going to be burning for a little video later today that we'll release tomorrow. But is it the Libertarian Party? I think the Libertarian Party is extremely worthwhile and very important activism for human progress in all the ways that I see humanity progressing right now. So I hope that puts it in context.
I would say so. I see a lot of the issues with the LP. I don't think that delegitimizes it or any of the work that anyone is doing within it or in the name of it. The whole goal is to spread liberty.
I choose to see opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I had only recently gotten involved directly in the party. I'd been a libertarian since, I would say, about high school. I was fortunate enough to be exposed to certain things to keep me out of the military,
Yep.
And I was very fortunate in that aspect because that was the route that a lot of people went. And even now, I see more of a reason to be involved in getting things done. I've been really trying to get things going off in my state over here in Utah, trying to get people organized and actually start paying attention to city council meetings, county commission meetings, like actually be involved, know what's going on, know what these people who actually can affect your daily life are doing. Know that you're in charge of what happens because you're the one that has the power to vote them in or vote them out. Do I think that that's the end all be all? No, I don't. But why give up one thing? Doesn't make sense to me why some people don't. I think voting, especially federally, is pretty stupid. It's not like we're really like we get to choose our leader. You know, we get to choose what corporate puppet, but I'm still not going to give that up. I'm still going to have it on paper that I refuse to follow this and I'm going to vote for third party.
Yeah, no, and the critics of libertarian party or libertarian political activism in general um, are generally mean-spirited assholes. You know, if you because you can't say that it's. I mean, there are certain things done in the name of the Libertarian Party that, yes, okay, they're counterproductive to the cause of freedom, sure, tiny little things here and there. And some people would argue major existential things like giving the system credibility. But this is the worst thing. Like, if you vote, you give the system credibility. It's like, are you saying that the system just needs my voice, and then theft is credible when I go and vote? No, you're legitimizing the system. This system could never be fucking legitimate. Like, it's a terrible contradiction. But we would be a fool as a movement. We would be foolish to put all of our eggs in one basket, or in this general fight or struggle or course of human progress, however you want to describe it, that we close off any route that has a genuine chance of success. And for me, localization. I ran for president on the platform of dissolving the federal government. If the support is there, I intend to honor my commitment to run again in 24 and put no federal government at all on the ballot again. And if people are ready for that, great. But I'm also declaring independence here with our homestead as Gardenia, as a micronation. So, we can do this from the ground up too. We could do this by lifestyle. We could do this by what you're describing as, sort of local political community activism of getting people engaged. But I think if there's one thing that we really under credit as an avenue of progress as libertarians, it's recognizing that there's a major limit. There's a wall that we hit in advocating for ideology that scares people, or advocating for change that scares people. And we need to engage in the political realm. And I think localization is a great way to say, we're not going to pull the rug out from underneath anybody. Your state government is already huge and overbearing too. We're just going to get rid of this federal level. It's actually, I don't need to convince you of my ideology to be on board with that. But also, you can't argue facts and logic with people who are emotionally committed to their positions. And so if we examine why, going back to the psychology and back to what I think is a major shift in my perspective and my activism, and focusing on Homefront Battle Buddies and advocating for psychedelics and mental health. And by the way, as long as we're mentioning Homefront Battle Buddies again, oh, awesome. I got to mention that our program director, Ed Vallejo, is in jail right now because he was at the January 6th event in DC and is being railroaded as a political victim here. Although he really is a libertarian.
Oh no, the great meandering.
Yeah, so he wasn't even there that day. He was across the river. He was part of the quick reaction force. So he's being charged with seditious conspiracy. Yeah. So we really need help right now. People want to come out here and help build this organization. We need volunteers. We need people who are ready to take on a serious role. Especially veterans. If you're not a veteran, you want to help, that's awesome, because really what we're doing is for everybody, developing a model of safe use and conscientious application of psychedelics and alternative therapies, especially the big four for me: cannabis, psilocybin, MDMA, and ketamine. And of course, whatever else veterans want is going to be incorporated. But what I want to push to make available for veterans and create the environment for that. You come here, there's going to be a cannabis caterer, any kind you could want. We're growing, and since I beat the charges in Colorado with the religious offense, I'm very comfortable saying I grow and give away mushrooms here for veterans. Ketamine and MDMA are not covered as synthetics under the religious. I'm a member of the Okaloosa Native American Church exemption under the First Amendment because they're synthetic, but getting them here is obviously in quantities that involve negligible liability, or under medical supervision with doctors who have already volunteered, who want to help. We have a guy who does ketamine therapy in Phoenix who wants to come up here when we get going. Problem is, we're a long ways from getting going with the full retreat model, because we have to build. We're building 3 buildings: a gym, a big greenhouse, and a barracks/lodge to host these retreats for veterans here. So if anybody wants to help, please email me, adam@thefreedomline.com, or homefrontbattlebuddies@gmail.com. Go to our website, homefrontbattlebuddies.org. So anyway, back to the main subject. This commercial is now over. But yeah, please, anything you can do to help out. You can also donate, tax-deductible donations. The bigger challenge for us as libertarians, when we hit that wall of people who are emotionally attached to their ideas, is how do we empower them to be more emotionally mature? We, as libertarians, generally pride ourselves on being rational and objective, and some even objectivists, and I consider myself in that sense an open objectivist. I'm not a Randian, but I support the intellectual methodology of objectivism. And if people can't get that in politics, but we have to admit that we are failing in being objective in our activism and our advocacy, and not recognizing that in a lot of ways we're up against that wall. We have to get around it, or we have to take it down bit by bit, brick by brick. And that might be one, psychedelic experience at a time. That might be one session with a therapist. That might be one hiking meditation retreat. That might be one person right now who's locked up with COVID having some experience getting out, because right now everybody's very, very suppressed, and there's a certain demand for that. And I know what I'm doing here, growing mushrooms, giving them away to veterans, hosting retreats, and building to that. We need a lot of money right now. I mean, we need about $120,000 to build out just the facility here to be able to do that. And that would still include a lot of volunteer hours on top of that to make all this come together. So is that the ultimate answer? I don't know. But in a way, we also have to realize that decentralization is a big part of this. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, but at a deeper level, Monero, at a deeper level, it's a real decentralization of the human experience as a whole. We have to give up the idea that we're going to find one savior, or there's going to be one central plan, or there's going to be one thing that did it. And it might be just that how does humanity move past this, fear mode, this statism era, where we are so many of us looking at fear and looking at authority. And it's not that we get scared of that and look to something else. It's that we are all able to, look within and look up and look away from that to those greater things. As like a preacher of this message, I don't want you to look at me. I want you to look within and look to God. Whatever that is for you. And to me, I'm a pantheist, and I absolutely support that the atheist analysis of the personified God, blah blah blah. But whatever principle that is for you, whether it's God or your own spirituality, but whatever it is that makes life worth living for you, turn away from fear, turn away from authority, look within, and look to what is good and what is righteous, whatever that is for you. And that doesn't mean look at me. It doesn't mean watch this program. That means live your best life.
I have to agree. One reason I wanted to highlight you and what you have going on is because I am a big proponent of leading by example. And I think that there are a lot of great libertarians who are leading by example, and a lot of people who are not related to the libertarian movement at all, who are also leading by example.
Yeah, right. Maybe more so.
Yeah.
I mean, the most libertarian thing you can do is live it without knowing what that word means.
Exactly. Without putting that label on it. It's It's really interesting. I think I'm with you. Ultimately, there's great hope for everything. No matter what story you decide to read, good always ends up winning in the end. And how I think my goal, at least, is how can I mitigate some of the pain and some of the uphill struggle, the unnecessary uphill struggle that's forced upon us as citizens of a unjust crown. Uphill struggle's great, of course. You should be challenged and everything, but there's a certain point where when things are forced upon people, it's wrong. And how can I make things better for my next generation, for my kids? I'll struggle so they don't have to. And that's really my big stance.
I don't want to be too much of a semantic nitpicker, but just the word struggle, like there's the Buddhist principle that life is struggle. And I kind of have redefined that or reinterpreted that life is effort, and a life worth living is a deliberate, principled life with effort. And it's not struggle. It's not strife. It's not conflict. Struggle suggests a certain period of conflict and overcoming or awkwardness or challenge. And I think it's just more acceptance of the nature of life itself, that life requires effort, that a life worth lived for a human being is one where you are engaged with life. And it's I don't think I will struggle so my kids won't have to. It's I will set an example of living well that my kids can follow.
Wow, that's well said. I don't mind semantic nitpickers. Semantics are one of the most important things especially in the English language. It literally defines, or it's how we define things differently. And I think a lot of issues coming from people
a lot
who
of
want to
political
see
arguments
people
are resolved in the defining of terms at the start of the debate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's people trying to blur the lines of the semantics.
Yes.
Where I see a lot of issues coming from, at least what we're dealing with currently. So I have no problem with that.
And this is, to piggyback on the concept of emotional empowerment, to get people away from the emotional attachment to their issues. A big part of it too is educational empowerment. And one of the things that I take for granted, being very well educated in the sense that I went to really good elementary school, middle school, and high school. I went to number 14 liberal arts college in the country, Claremont McKenna. I was always a reader as a kid, and have given speeches and blah 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 blah. And I have most of a master's degree in political management from George Washington University, and titles, credentials, whatever. But a lot of us who have that level of education in language and appreciation for it kind of take for granted that we use language with a certain precision that as a tool simply isn't available to most Americans who are poorly educated through the government school system in the United States. And this is something that is actually a relative decline. Greg Giraldo, may he rest in peace. You might know from Comedy Central roasts and a stand-up. One of my favorite dead comedians said that the way the language used to be used, even in American history, is so stark because he was reading a book of Civil War letters that Civil War troops wrote home to their loved ones, and it was like, "My dearest beloved Margaret, every morn my heart yearns with the ache of your absence." And then he goes, "Can you imagine what letters from the troops are like today? Dear Marie, yeah, this is Joe here in the desert. It's fucking hot and there's sand everywhere. Don't fuck anyone while I'm gone. See you soon." And it's just like, yeah, there used to be I'm not a conservative or, you know, a nostalgic guy in any sense, but that contrast does illuminate the general low expectation of precision in language for most Americans, and in a way that is manipulated by the mainstream media and taken advantage of by politicians, and that language is a soft, squishy thing that deals more in the realm of emotion rather than precision, precise description of ideas or even physical reality or promises. And so just empowering people to be smarter, to take time off of work, to be with their kids, to invest more in education one way or another, to have the leisure time, because even what I'm describing as a phenomena perhaps of earlier periods in American history where there was a more pervasive appreciation for the English language's usages, that wasn't a thing 300, 400, 500, thousands of years before that. We've gone from grunts and groans to being able to describe incredible things. And that we don't fully take advantage of that is one of the things that we have been in some ways robbed of our potential of that in modern generations by the perversity of the modern education system run by governments around the world. Is just one more way that they take advantage of it. But I'm just then all the more confident that, you know, technology creating leisure time and the internet making education available, and eventually competition between educational institutions is going to inevitably lead to every human being on earth having access to much greater education.
So one word I want to ask you about that I see cause a lot of issues recently: misinformation. What's your thoughts about that one particular word?
That word used to mean something. Now it's anybody who disagrees with me is spreading misinformation. Yeah, no, it's just a unique phenomena under the COVID hysteria, that anybody who challenges COVIDism is spreading misinformation. And it's a very dangerous, unscientific thing, but it used to be fake news. It's just a dumb way of politically discrediting people that disagree with you. And it's just a little bit more pernicious in the way that it has become associated with science and the COVIDism racket as misinformation, because it has served for the drivers of the COVID hysteria as an effective way of suppressing information that challenges their narrative. But now that it's become this marquee word, concept, propaganda tool, misinformation, it is starting to wear thin, and that's kind of cool to see. The people are making fun of it more than using it effectively at this point.
Yeah, I find it interesting, the things that going on with Joe Rogan. You know, they're trying to claim misinformation from him, and the people claiming misinformation have a tenth of the audience.
Well, hold on. You know, every time you mention Joe Rogan, I get a little triggered because, you know, I was on his show and then I got censored.
His one of the 40 episodes that got removed.
You know the backstory.
Yes, I do.
That's fucking
and it was
nuts. Man,
incredibly wrong.
Say, I was censored by Joe Rogan and Spotify and Alex Jones. He was part of it because he lied to the public about it. Those three combined to censor those episodes. They were deliberately involved in censoring. Now, Alex Jones may be ancillary role, but he covered for him. I can say and by the way, Alex Jones used to have me on a show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember you have actually led to you know, radicalizing me at some point, which is why I thought this was so crazy to be able to interview you. So thank you for that. Definitely. I mean, some of God, once again with the labels, people have called it the intellectual dark web. You know, Stefan Molyneux, he was censored. Gavin McGinnis, he was censored. All of these people who supposedly are so scary and have no value based upon what the powers that be say. And I thought it was absolutely crazy that you got wrapped up into that.
Well, I hate to say it, but I've kind of, you're forcing me to confront the fact that I more or less gave up in the face of all the censorship that I faced. Like, I got my YouTube channel up to, it's got over 100 million views now. I think it says 80 million because the rest are like they've been taken down or videos that are private or censored or something. But and 250,000 subscribers. And at one point I was doing 2 million views a month with Adam versus the Man. And then it plummeted down from that, and the monetization plummeted first. It went when Google bought YouTube, and then being shadow banned, banned, and being in Facebook jail so many times, but basically being, I was being shut down on Facebook effectively, and it was more frustrating to be shadow banned than banned outright, because you get banned outright, you go, okay, well, that's that. I'm going to pick up and move my audience over here if I can. But I've never really, like, since all that, successfully rebuilt my audience. I mean, right now we do a weekly show on Wednesday evenings for Adam versus the Man. We're live a few different places. I want to promote two things, and I'll come back to this at the end here in a few minutes. But email me, if you way to contact me, adam@thefreedomline.com, adam@thefreedomline.com. And my feed, my stream of everything that I'm putting out is on Telegram. We're sort of slowly rebuilding around Telegram. And I love Telegram, but I'm only at like 700 something followers there when I had over 250,000 on YouTube. And that was growing until, like, one of the first things they did when they demonetized was somehow I got taken out of the subscription algorithm. I don't know how to describe it now. I don't care. I've been, like, deliberately putting all that out of my mind. But, like, we would have, we if we had been allowed to keep going on YouTube, we'd have somewhere between 1 and 2 million subscribers right now. And just kind of, I don't have that psychopathic drive to have an audience. And I really did at one point, and got wrapped up in that. But I don't know if that's the answer. I want to have some voice in the conversation. But I was censored out of even the intellectual dark web. I'm too dark for the dark web. I don't know how you want to say it, but because every time I've tried to build something, and I want to say now, I'm on Telegram and I'm on Odyssey for videos. And we post a few other places, but that's what I'm focusing on to build. It's our Telegram channel and our Odyssey channel. But I don't really care. And I don't know if that's the answer. It's fun. Come hang out with us Wednesdays. I spend more time telling stories now that I'm, like, stories of the last week. Like, where did you get arrested last week, Adam? What did you build last week? Whatever. More than, covering the news. But, like, I don't even know if I ever want to get back into that again. Do I want to, like, do I want to cover the headlines on a daily basis? Like, yeah, it's really fun, but I'd rather, does that help? Do we need another guy doing that? I don't know. I mean, conversations like this are way more fun. Every interview I do where someone lets me ramble and has interesting prompts and good questions, goes in different directions, and I get to promote what I'm doing right now. But even this is a unique conversation that's happening today, right now. Yeah. And this is more interesting to me. This is what I do with my show once a week. It's, usually 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes we have guests. Sometimes I just ramble. I have a co-host. I have a producer, Edward Vallejo. Ed is our ombudsman, and he's in jail right now. So it's a 3-person operation with G.I. Mary Jane as my co-host and Jim Freedom as our producer out of Phoenix. But I would give that up to be able to build Homefront Battle Buddies here if I thought it was an even trade-off. I would give that up to be able to give away all the mushrooms I wanted, to have my homestead all properly built. You know, I'm on Twitter too. I'm not gonna even tell you my handle there. So I don't want you to find me on Twitter. Find me on Telegram. Get the Telegram app. If you don't know what Telegram is, find out. Are you up on Telegram, Jake?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Got a really small channel, about like 42 people, I think. I was able to post the unredacted version of the Epstein Black Book PDF file, and that brought a lot of people over. So you can check that out, risetoliberty.com/free speech, for as long as that lasts. Definitely have Adam's Telegram group in the bottom ticker, so make sure and check that out, because I love Telegram too. It's great, honestly. I spend so much time on there.
Yeah. So I should say I have a few other Telegram channels that I'm active with there. We have one for Gardenia, which is short for the Garden of Freedom, which is our homestead here. Soon to be Micronation. And we have one for Homefront Battle Buddies. You can find those just by searching for them. And then we have a few channels attached to that. So check them all out. If you want the sneak preview for Oathbreakers, that is at t.me/Adam versus the man. And if anybody wants to donate to support any of these endeavors, we can do it through our 501c3. We can do it by direct investment. We can do it off the record. Email me. We'll make it happen. Adam@thefreedomline.com. Jake, thanks for the opportunity, and for everybody who made it this far in the conversation, thanks for listening.
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, I had a blast. It's a real honor to be able to interview somebody like you that's had an impact. You know, I would say you've been successful in being able to at least spread the message, and that's what I like to highlight. That's the whole reason I started this channel. You know, is it really gonna do a whole lot? No, but it's just the piece. You know, just like voting, it's not the end solution, but it's a piece.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm gonna add to every bit of piece I can. So definitely thank you for being a part of the whole and adding to this piece.
Amen.
All right, man. We'll definitely get you back on. It was a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure and go to risetoliberty.com and make sure and check Adam out. Everything's going to be linked in the episode description below. So see you guys. Stay free, my friends, and fuck the crown.